Welcome to Comic and Screen. I'm Sam Otten, and that is Jason Book. Hey, Jason, thanks for being here.
Hey, anytime, Sam. My pleasure.
We're going to be talking about Gotham. They are 7 episodes in now on Fox Monday nights. So pick back up a little bit here. We had episode 5 where there was the Viper drug, which actually kind of reminded me of the Mirakuru drug from Arrow, but it's a different drug that also makes you kind of super strong. And they're building the Mooney, Maroni, Falcone tensions and their kind of like chess game that they're having. Episode 6 was The Spirit of the Goat. That episode, we kind of learned a little bit more about Harvey Bullock, get to know him as a character. And we find the Penguin is back, which is big trouble for Gordon, because Gordon was supposed to have killed him. Then that brings us up to episode 7, the most recent one. That's where Gordon's in some pretty deep trouble because the Penguin is alive. So we really get to see Gordon kind of fighting for his life in a few scenes. And yeah, the Falcone tensions and stuff really kind of develops. So that's where we are. Jason, what was your reaction specifically to this last episode, Penguin's Umbrella?
I thought it was really, really well done. I thought out of all the episodes so far, it felt like the one that I really wanted it to be when we started talking about the show originally. It felt kind of like it had a Batman type vibe to it, like of the way, the crime world would work in Gotham, and everything started clicking, and there's definitely a lot of backstabbing going on, but overall I really enjoyed it, and I thought that the dialogue was good, the action was good, and the acting was great as well.
Yeah, I loved this episode. I feel like this episode is a new high point for the show, and I'm glad that it came along because now I'm kind of all the way in on the show. I felt like it was pretty good before, but I hadn't really fallen in love with it. But then this episode, the way the Falcone stuff played out, because I was a little bit disappointed in Falcone to this point. I'm like, come on, he seems like he's a little bit rusty or he's a little off his game. But now in episode 7, we find out, like, no, he's actually been kind of playing it and working it this whole time. So there's kind of the big reveal between him and Penguin. So I thought that's good. I'm like, okay, yeah, Falcone really is the guy. He's the man.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
Fish Mooney and Maroni are still trying to work their way up. So I really liked that development with it. But yeah, there were some scenes here that I just thought were really powerful. Like, they really drew me into the show more than any of the previous episodes had. So like the scene in the precinct where the police officers basically just leave Gordon. Like Gordon's this new guy, the police are very corrupt, and that scene where they just leave him there in danger was really powerful to me. Then the other one, and actually even my wife got pretty into it. Like we were both like really into it, talking about what's going to happen, was the scene towards the end with Barbara. Like, so is Barbara in danger or is Falcone bluffing? And my wife and I were both really kind of like trying to guess, which is it. We each had our kind of like hypotheses, and then the way it played out I thought was really good. But it really just drew us towards the screen. It was really good that way.
Yeah, for sure. I would say I liked all the things about this episode except for only two things. The guy that
Hmm.
played Zaz was the guy
Hmm.
that played the Mist villain on The Flash like two
Hmm.
weeks ago. And I was like, really? Like, these are kind of going to be back to back. One film's in Vancouver, one film's in New York, I think. Kind of seemed like that's, they're not the same universe, but you know what I mean, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and the guy didn't look that
It,
different either. So, but
right. It
but he
pulled
did
you
a
out of it
good
a little
job.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah, he did a good job though, as he really did. And then
Hmm.
the only thing I didn't like about that part you were speaking about, where all the cops left, just part of my gut was like, there's no way cops would leave another cop there like that. Like they would just kind of stand in front of him and be like, if you're gonna go to him, you got to go through me, kind of thing. Mind you,
Hmm.
Gotham is corrupt and the police department is corrupt, but those are the only two things where I thought, yeah, a little iffy. Other than
Well,
that, I really loved it though.
I mean, to me, the fact that police officers wouldn't really, I mean, they would never do that, like sticking up for cops is kind of their number one thing. To me, that's what made it more powerful, was like, wow, even police officers' number one kind of rule of brotherhood, even that, the kind of, the mobsters and the crime sides had overpowered it. So to me, that almost made it more powerful.
Yeah.
And there was the one police chief or whatever that stayed with him, so at least there was something there.
Yeah, that's true.
Uh,
Yeah, but overall, it was a really good episode, and I don't know, it almost had vibe at some points, like where it reminded me of the same tone as the Batman movies, but like it was getting a little
mhm,
more, higher pressure and things going
mhm,
on, and just kind of some of the
mhm,
action was pretty good for a TV show. I thought it was really
mhm.
solid.
Yeah, and I think Gordon got to sort of like let loose a little bit more. got to be a little bit more badass, I guess you could say,
Yeah,
than he has in
definitely.
previous episodes. So I thought that was good to see.
Yeah, give him a
Uh,
little more life.
yeah, and then there was the scene with young Bruce, but there wasn't too much Bruce. And I was kind of getting worried that this show might be too much about young Bruce, but this one I thought was fine. It's like, okay, you keep him around, but you don't give him too much of the show, because I think it really needs to be a show about Gordon and about Gotham itself, and not really a show just about young Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm interested to see what they do with this whole kind of every once in a while they go back to Jim saying, I'll find your parents' killer, how they're going to
Hmm.
work that into the mythology. Because in the comics, they know it's Joe Chill and in the movies and stuff. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with that because I don't see them going against such an iconic character in Batman's history and having it not be Joe Chill. I just think it's
Right.
going to be kind of an interesting way to get there.
Yeah, and that seems like one of the long story arcs that they're trying to build.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be multiple seasons, I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Because right now we've got the Falcone, all those, that chess game is kind of a long story arc that really came to a head in this episode.
Yeah.
This episode didn't have the sort of like the single crime that drove through the episode. And
No,
I
yeah.
actually, I mean, I think it's fine that most episodes they have that crime element. Like, okay, here's this one criminal or this one crime that they're solving, and then in the meantime, Maroni and Falcone and stuff are basically squaring off against each other. This one didn't really have a crime in it. It was more just like, okay, we need to take an episode to really see where the chess game is, and we need to let Jim Gordon deal with the fact that people are basically out to kill him, so he needs to deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was glad to see the plot going there, and I'll be fine, next week picking back up with a regular kind of crime episode.
Well, I think like the crime episodes to me sometimes feel a little bit like filler. They've got their place to kind of show you that Gotham is an increasing place for what would eventually be super criminals, right? But I
Hmm.
find that the real meat of the story is an episode like this. And the more we
Hmm.
get like
Yeah.
this, that's what we need to really make this show kind of what it is and to give it
Right.
longevity. And also, Penguin is just a badass in this too. Like
Yeah.
that part
He,
with the thug guy, I didn't see that coming at all. That was great.
right. Yeah, same here. He continues to be a bright spot for sure.
Hmm.
So we got Gotham episode 7, I think, really kind of raising the bar, and also episode 7 had the ratings tick upward, which is
Mm,
always good to see. It ticked up to like 6.63 million, so that's always good to have that consistency. And
hmm.
we have Harvey Dent to look forward to, so I think he's coming
Yeah.
in episode 9. So that'll be good to see how he fits into this as well.
You know, like it's one of those things where I've always said about the Nolan films, they exist well as a superhero movie and as a crime story, and that's what this
Hmm.
episode did well. This could just
Yeah.
be a really interesting cop show,
Hmm.
but done in a different style, and that's what made it stand up to me really well.
All right, great. Thanks for talking about it, Jason.
Anytime.